This is not a movie. This is a true story. One American soldier surrounded by 80 enemies. 60 seconds that changed everything. Let's start.
January 29th, 1945, 2:50 p.m. afternoon. Holzheim, Belgium. First Sergeant Leonard Funk rounded the corner of a farmhouse and stopped cold. 90 German soldiers stood before him. Half-carried rifles, MP-40 submachine guns, and Kar 98Ks. The other half were in the process of arming themselves, picking rifles from a pile on the snow-dusted ground. 4 American soldiers knelt in the snow nearby, hands behind their heads, disarmed. These Germans, 80 of them captured. Just 20 minutes earlier by Funk's company during the assault on the village, had been prisoners. Guarded by 4 men, that was all Funk could spare. Now, the prisoners were armed, organized, poised to attack Company C from the rear. A German officer stepped forward, shoving an MP-40 into Funk's stomach, screaming something in German. Funk didn't understand. None of the Americans did. The officer yelled again, louder, his face red with fury. Funk looked from the officer to the 90 Germans, to his 4 men, to the gun pressing into his chest. Then he did something no one expected. He laughed. The officer froze for a heartbeat, then redoubled his screams. Funk laughed harder. And in the next 60 seconds, 21 Germans would be dead, the remainder surrendering once more, and Funk would earn the Medal of Honor. Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. was born August 27, 1916, in Braddock Township, Pennsylvania, a steel town 8 miles east of Pittsburgh. Smokestacks and foundries lined the Monongahela River. Funk grew up fast, assuming responsibilities beyond his years, caring for his younger brother. While the Great Depression ground through its 5th year, jobs were scarce, college a distant dream. In June 1941, with war raging across Europe and Asia, Congress extended the draft. Funk's number came up. He reported to the induction center in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. At 24, 5 feet 5 inches tall and 140 pounds, the Army physical examiner probably expected clerical assignments. Funk had other plans. He volunteered for the paratroopers. In 1941, airborne forces were barely more than a concept. Soldiers jumping from perfectly good aircraft into enemy-held territory. The idea sounded suicidal. Volunteers had to be different, physically, mentally, and psychologically. Training was designed to break men. 5 weeks of running, jumping, climbing, falling, brutal conditioning that eliminated half the candidates. Then came the jump towers, then the aircraft. The first jump out of a C-47 at 1,200 feet was a confrontation with every instinct in the human body. The ground far below, wind tearing at the face. A parachute that was nothing more than fabric and cord. Funk survived. He earned his wings and was assigned to Company C, 1st Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment at Camp Landing, Florida. The regiment shipped to England in late 1943, joining the 82nd Airborne Division, the All-Americans, veterans of Sicily and Italy. Funk, 27 and considered old by paratrooper standards, was the new guy, but he brought steadiness and quiet competence that younger soldiers instinctively trusted. By D-Day, Funk was a squad leader. By January 1945, acting company executive officer. But first he had to survive Normandy. June 6, 1944, 1:30 a.m. aboard a C-47 Skytrain over Normandy. Funk stood in the stick, 60 pounds of gear strapped to his body. Thompson submachine gun, ammunition, grenades, rations, medical kit. The plane shuddered as flak shredded the night sky. Traces cut through darkness like burning wires. 400 feet, a dangerously low altitude. The prop wash hit like a truck when Funk jumped. The parachute deployed and the world went quiet. Below, enemy-occupied France stretched in every direction. Chaos. Men landed in flooded fields, drowning under their gear. Others dropped into German camps. Funk hit hard, twisting his ankle. Pain seared his leg, but he moved. Alone, 40 miles from his drop zone, he began collecting stragglers, 18 men eventually, and led them through German-held territory for 10 days. He served as lead scout despite his injury, guiding the men at night, hiding by day. fighting only when necessary. Not one of his men died. Funk earned the Silver Star, Bronze Star, and first Purple Heart. September 17th, 1944. Holland, Operation Market Garden. 35,000 paratroopers dropped to capture a series of bridges along the Rhine. British, American, and Polish forces all jumped together. Funk's mission: support the landings near Nijmegen. He noticed 3 German flak-veering anti-aircraft guns firing at Allied gliders. 20 Germans, 3 Americans. Standard doctrine demanded a 3-to-1 advantage for an assault. Funk had the opposite. He attacked anyway. Leading from the front, Funk and his 3-man patrol stormed the guns. 20 Germans killed, 3 Americans wounded. The weapons went silent. The gliders landed safely. Funk received the Distinguished Service Cross. December 16th, 1944. The Ardennes, Hitler's last desperate offensive. 3 armies, 400,000 men, 1,400 tanks, 1,900 artillery pieces. The Battle of the Bulge had begun. Green troops crumbled. Thousands surrendered. Then came Normandy. December 17th, a convoy of the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion encountered Kampfgruppe Piper. Over 100 Americans surrendered. 84 were murdered in a farmer's field, executed coldly by the SS. Some survived by playing dead. Funk, learning of Normandy, hardened. He swore never to surrender to the Germans. The shooting stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Smoke hung low in the frozen air, drifting from the muzzle of Funk's Thompson and from the rifles abandoned in the snow. The yard was silent except for the wounded. 21 German soldiers lay dead where they had fallen. Blood stained the white ground in dark, uneven patches. The rest, more than 40 men, stood motionless with their hands raised. Weapons dropped, stunned by how fast everything had collapsed. Leonard Funk stood among them, breathing hard, his weapon still shouldered, eyes scanning for movement. His face showed no triumph, no relief, just focus, the kind that comes when adrenaline hasn't yet worn off, and the mind is still working through the reality that death was just avoided by seconds. One of the 4 American guards, now armed with a German rifle, looked at Funk and shook his head slowly. "Jesus Christ," he said under his breath. Funk didn't answer. He stepped forward, kicked a rifle away from a wounded German trying to reach it, then turned to his men. "Get them lined up," he said. "Search them. Watch the hands." Only when the prisoners were secured again did Funk finally lower his Thompson. He glanced down at the snow-covered ground, at the bodies, then back at the farmhouse wall behind him. Less than a minute. That was all it had taken. Company C began to consolidate positions across. Holzheim's word of the incident spread. Men moved more cautiously now, expecting another surprise. But there was no second attack. The Germans in the area were finished. Holzheim belonged to the Americans. When Funk reported what had happened to his commanding officer, he did it plainly, without emphasis. Numbers, sequence, outcome. 90. Enemy soldiers attempting to rearm and attack. German officer killed. Enemy casualties. Prisoners retaken. His commander stared at him for a long moment after the report ended. "You're telling me," he said carefully, "you walked into 90 armed Germans and lived?" "Yes, sir." "How?" Funk shrugged. They hesitated. That was all he offered. Within hours, the story spread beyond Company C, then beyond the battalion. By nightfall, it was circulating through the 508. Duffy, the first sergeant who laughed at a German officer with a submachine gun in his stomach, a single man who turned a surrender into an ambush. Soldiers repeated it in hushed voices, checking details, exaggerating nothing, because nothing needed exaggeration. The paperwork followed, witness statements, after-action reports, enemy casualty counts. The recommendation for the Medal of Honor moved up the chain quickly. There were no conflicting accounts, no uncertainty. Everyone who had seen it understood exactly what had happened. For Leonard Funk, the war did not stop. Company C continued to fight as the Allied advance pushed east. Villages blurred together. Snow turned to mud, then back to snow. Funk carried on as he always had, leading patrols, organizing defenses, moving men where they were needed most. He was wounded again during the final weeks of the war, hit by shrapnel, but refused evacuation until the unit was secure. In May 1945, Germany surrendered. For the men of the 82nd Airborne, the announcement came quietly, without ceremony. No cheering, just a slow realization that the shooting was finally over. Funk was tired in a way that sleep could not fix. When he returned to the United States, the war followed him home in ways he never discussed. He did not replay stories. He did not seek recognition. When asked about combat, he answered briefly and redirected the conversation. The past, to him, was something that had been survived, not something to revisit. On September 5th, 1945, Leonard Funk stood in the White House Rose Garden, wearing a dress uniform that still felt unfamiliar. His wife, Gertrude, stood nearby. President Harry Truman stepped forward and placed the Medal of Honor around Funk's neck. Truman looked at him closely before speaking. "I would rather have this medal," he said, "than be President of the United States." Funk nodded once. He did not smile. The citation described the moment at Holzheim in careful, restrained language. Overwhelming odds, certain death, lightning motion, leadership under fire. Words chosen to be precise, not dramatic. Funk listened as they were read, recognizing the facts but not the weight others placed on them. After the ceremony, there were handshakes, photographs, polite conversation. Funk participated as required, then went home. Civilian life came slowly. The army had given him structure, clarity, and purpose. Peace offered none of that. Like many veterans, Funk struggled briefly to adjust, not because he lacked discipline, but because the world he returned to felt disconnected from the one he had left. He took a job with the Veterans Administration. It was not glamorous work. Desk assignments, paperwork, claims, forms, regulations. Funk sat across from men who looked older than their years, many missing limbs, others carrying wounds no one could see. He listened. He explained. He helped them navigate a system that often overwhelmed them. He was good at it. Funk understood soldiers. He understood frustration. He understood silence. When a veteran struggled to explain something, Funk waited. When paperwork stalled, he pushed it forward. When someone gave up, Funk didn't. He rose through the organization steadily, not through ambition, but through competence. Eventually, he became a division chief at the Pittsburgh Regional Office. He stayed there for 27 years. As the decades passed, his story faded from public awareness. New wars came, new heroes. Names changed, memories shifted. Funk remained content with obscurity. He attended reunions occasionally, stood quietly at the edge of gatherings, listening more than speaking. When he did speak, it was never about himself. In November 1992, Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. died of cancer at the age of 76. He was buried at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 35, grave 23734. He was the last living Medal of Honor recipient from the 82nd Airborne Division of World War II. There were no crowds, no spectacle, just family, a few veterans, and the quiet dignity of military honors. Over time, recognition returned in pieces. A fitness center at Fort Bragg, later renamed Fort Liberty, was named in his honor. A highway in Pennsylvania bore his name. In 2023, a post office in McKeesport was dedicated to him. Still, most people never heard of Leonard Funk. They know Audie Murphy. They know Alvin York, names tied to books and films. Funk's story remained largely confined to regimental histories and Medal of Honor citations. But among soldiers, among those who study combat seriously, his actions at Holzheim stand apart, not because of the body count, because of the decision. At the moment when surrender appeared logical, when every measurable factor favored the enemy, Funk chose disruption. He chose initiative. He chose to act while others hesitated. That choice did not come from fearlessness. It came from experience, from Malmedy, from Normandy, from Holland, from 10 days behind enemy lines with 18 men depending on him. Courage in that sense is not emotional. It is functional. Leonard Funk did not laugh because he thought it was funny. He laughed because the situation demanded something unexpected, something that broke rhythm, something that forced the enemy to reassess. In war, reassessment costs time. Time costs lives. Funk took that time and used it. The Medal of Honor citation ends with formal language, but the reality behind it is simple. One man recognized that the moment belonged to whoever acted first. He acted, the rest followed. That is Leonard Funk's story, not one of myth or spectacle, but of clarity under pressure, of leadership exercised in seconds, of survival earned, not granted. War does not reward the strongest. It does not reward the loudest. It rewards those who understand human behavior when fear takes over. At Holzheim, Leonard Funk understood it better than anyone else on the field. And because of that, he lived.
That's all about Leonard Funk. Next story will be coming soon with full suspense and thrilling. So like and subscribe the channel for latest videos.